Welcome to African Today, your number one source for unfiltered, unapologetic African stories. Today, we're diving into a chilling expose, one that uncovers a hidden war being waged not with bullets, but with surveillance, manipulation, and shadows. What started as whispers of NGO espionage and mysterious data leaks has exploded into one of the greatest intelligence counteroffensives in modern African history. A war most African nations never saw coming. But Burkina Faso did, and they struck back. In a world where African sovereignty is often compromised through hidden intelligence operations, one nation, Burkina Faso, has flipped the entire script. But here on African Today, we're telling the truth they'd rather you never knew. At the center of it all is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a military leader turned revolutionary icon, who not only identified a foreign-backed spy base operating in a neighboring country, but exposed a much larger network plotting to destabilize the entire Sahel region. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't in Western newspapers. It isn't on BBC or CNN. This is the secret African intel war, and it starts now. For decades, African nations have battled the remnants of colonialism. Yet while flags may have changed, the tactics did not. The tools simply evolved. Burkina Faso became too independent, too ungovernable by foreign standards. Gone are the days of open invasions. Today, control comes dressed in suits and sunglasses through NGOs, private contractors, tech surveillance, and digital espionage. On paper, they were climate researchers, development experts, and data analysts. In reality, they were agents trained in signal interception, behavioral surveillance, and political destabilization. The West didn't leave Africa. It simply adapted. High-powered satellite dishes, encrypted satellite phones, advanced biometric tracking systems, all tools far beyond the scope of humanitarian missions. And Burkina Faso was one of the newest targets. After Traoré's government began nationalizing mines, cutting off ties with France, and aligning with the Alliance of Sahel States, ES, global powers took notice. That's when the so-called aid centers began popping up. And that's when the secret war began. So he launched a quiet revolution. In mid-2024, Burkina Faso's intelligence officers intercepted unusual radio signals originating from just beyond its southern border. The source? A fortified humanitarian compound in Bouak, Côte d'Ivoire, a few kilometers from the Burkinabe border. Disguised as an aid coordination facility, the base was staffed with personnel bearing dual identities. What raised eyebrows wasn't just their presence, but their tech. Captain Traoré quietly greenlit Operation Night Falcon, a classified mission to uncover, decode, and ultimately disable the spy network operating in the region. With little outside support and a shoestring budget, Burkina Faso began building a 21st-century intelligence ecosystem from scratch. Traoré understood that modern warfare isn't only fought with tanks and rifles. It fought with data, surveillance, and narratives. National Defense and Reconnaissance Bureau, NDRB, was reborn. Digital warriors, many of them university students, were trained in cyber forensics. Retired officers returned to teach encryption, behavioral profiling, and counterintel operations. Burkina Faso wasn't just playing catch-up. It was preparing for a digital insurgency. Within months, Burkinabe agents had mapped the entire communication pattern of the Bouak base. The intel they uncovered was explosive. Captured communications revealed a staggering web of operations. Names of Burkinabe officers marked for influence, maps of gold transportation routes, drone footage of AES training camps, plans to use media platforms to discredit Traoré. One message stood out. Objective, political fracture before end of Q1 2025. Together, the three nations began sharing findings, coordinating border surveillance, and tracking funding trails. This wasn't just surveillance. It was pre-coup groundwork. Even more damning was the discovery of live data pipelines transmitting from the base to servers based in Western Europe, confirming direct coordination with foreign intelligence services. Rather than panic, Traoré tightened the net. Burkina Faso's leadership initiated Operation Sable Vengeance, a counterintelligence campaign designed not only to expose the network, but to quietly dismantle it from within. Between September and December 2024, over 22 suspected agents were arrested inside Burkina Faso, and thanks to key support from nations like Russia and tactical technologies from China, AES began reversing the surveillance imbalance. 8 high-ranking insiders were removed after being caught leaking information. Chinese cybersecurity engineers trained Burkinabe officials in threat analysis and AI-assisted counterespionage. Data from seized laptops revealed code names, passwords, and bribery records. Traore didn't make public declarations. He didn't seek Western validation. Instead, he let the operations speak for themselves. And they did. AES allies, Mali and Niger, confirmed similar infiltration patterns in their own territories. What began as a counter-surveillance operation evolved into a new intelligence pact, the AES Intelligence Coordination Pact, HCP. Under this framework, satellite surveillance was consolidated. Drone data was shared via encrypted regional servers. AES member states coordinated digital defense days to test system vulnerabilities. As the mainstream media turned its back, Africans turned to African Today, Pan-African radio shows, Telegram news hubs, and grassroots creators spreading the word. Burkina Faso now served as the nerve center for this intelligence network. One Russian-provided AI system identified and blocked 5 foreign satellites from intercepting military movements. This was no longer just a national defense. It was Pan-African sovereignty in action. No spy war is complete without betrayal. As the AES strengthened its walls, the true shock came from within. Investigations revealed a senior Burkinabe diplomat had been feeding AES intelligence to a foreign ambassador in exchange for education, funding, and offshore accounts. One startup even developed a secure local browser powered by national servers. A media house executive received payment to publish anonymous reports designed to erode public confidence in Traore. An army colonel, now arrested, had been planning coordinated leaks to Western outlets. Rather than expose these individuals with a media spectacle, the government used legal and quiet administrative measures. Their goal? Restore confidence, not cause panic. As one Traore aide put it, a revolution does not scream. It listens, it learns, and then it strikes. Despite the magnitude of these events, the Western media said nothing. No front-page coverage. No breaking news. No foreign correspondent rushing to document the crumbling of a covert network. Why? Because acknowledging Burkina Faso's victory would unravel the myth of Western supremacy in intelligence. Instead, platforms like African Today became the only voices covering the truth. In just 3 months, African Today's video on Traore versus the CIA amassed over 1 million views, shared in markets, schools, and barracks across Africa. Inspired by the revelations, thousands of Burkinabe youth began applying for cyber defense training. We tell the stories buried by power, cloaked in silence, and guarded by empires. New institutions emerged. But the resistance? That's in your hands now. It forced the world to confront Africa's awakening, not just as a resource hub, but as a defender of truth and sovereignty. But Burkina Faso has shown that it is possible to fight back and win. The Sahel Cyber Academy in Ouagadougou. Digital Patriot Camps, teaching ethical hacking and counter-disinformation. AES Code Black Days, where hackers across the alliance simulated attacks and tested national defenses. Young Burkinabe coders began building local alternatives to Google Docs, WhatsApp, and Telegram. These cyber patriots weren't just learning defense. They were writing Africa's digital future. What began in Burkina Faso has now become a continental model. Uganda launched a nationwide audit of all NGOs. Zimbabwe began building national data sovereignty centers. Cameroon passed legislation restricting foreign surveillance tech. The African Union is now debating a continent-wide digital sovereignty protocol modeled partly after the EES alliance. Traore's success inspired more than resistance. It inspired replication. For the first time, African nations are coordinating not just politically or militarily, but in digital defense. And all of this, sparked by a landlocked nation that refused to be silent. If you've made it this far, you are no longer just a viewer. You are part of a movement. Here on African Today, we bring you what others hide. Burkina Faso didn't just survive an intelligence attack. It rewrote the rules. Captain Traore may have launched this operation. Because every share, every repost, every discussion you have about this story weakens the grip of disinformation and strengthens Africa's voice. The war isn't over. New satellites are being launched. Digital traps are being set. Economic sanctions may follow. This is a call to all African nations. Guard your skies. Protect your data. Secure your stories. Because the new colonization won't come with ships or shackles, it'll come with apps, NGOs, and covert influence. But here on African Today, we'll be watching. We'll be speaking. And together, we'll make sure Africa no longer whispers, it roars.